was not expecting over the rainbow, and I didn't know it would make me feel so many things. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Darian. You're amazing. Welcome to our shared Southern Oregon Unitarian Universalist Partnership, SOUUP, service this morning. We're live today in the Unitarian Universalist of Grants Pass Sanctuary. We have folks joining us on Zoom from Grants Pass, from the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Klamath County, and we're live streaming with the Rogue Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship on YouTube. That's a lot of UUs. My name is Sylvia. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm beyond delighted to be your service host this morning. I really appreciate you all joining us and being here in this wonderful hybrid SOUUP community. We've been so fortunate to spend a lot of quality time with our intern minister, QuianaDenae in the past few days. I started to count the hours that we have spent together, and it was approaching 15, and so I stopped counting. I've enjoyed every minute that we have spent together, even the difficult conversations that we've had this week. We're so honored to welcome QuianaDenae to our pulpit this morning, and as much as we love seeing her on Zoom, it's all the more special to share our space with her. Later on, she'll share her sermon, What Are We Growing? I know we're all really excited to hear about that. I also want to welcome any visitors. We're so excited that you picked this really wonderful Sunday to join us. So everyone on Zoom, we're glad you're here, and everyone in person, we're also glad that you're here. I will now turn it over to QuianaDenae.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm usually a ton louder, but I gotta tell you, this moment is a culmination of a lot of hard work and energy that goes all the way to Klamath Falls and all the way to Michigan and back, right? So we didn't get here by chance. So I just am in awe of it. For those of you who do not know me, my name is QuianaDenae Perkins, and I proudly serve as your intern minister for Southern Oregon Partnership, which includes the folks at Grants Pass, Rogue Valley, and Klamath Falls. And I am overjoyed to be with you this morning. Before we get settled into our time together, I need to make a few announcements. First of all, because Sylvia and I have spent 15 hours together, we have been in a covenant around wearing masks, and we made the choice this morning in covenant to not wear them for service. But know that the health and safety of our community absolutely matters to me. So outside of this little bubble that we've created of safety, you will see me in a mask because it's how I can take care of you and me. Today's session is being recorded, and that's not something that always happens throughout the SOUUP communities. And so we wanted to make sure we shared that widely so folks can make the best choices for them around that. And last but not least, due to the combined nature of our service, we won't be having joys and sorrows inside of the service, but we do know that there are still joys and sorrows we're carrying in our hearts. So if that's something that you need space for, please seek out someone in your pastoral care community or send an email to myself or Reverend Sean or whomever in your community is a beacon of support. Before we get too far, I would be remiss if I did not say some thank yous. Sylvia is our service host today. Our service technicians span from here to Klamath. They include Anthony. David Kike was a huge part of our success today. David is in the library in the back doing some work. And then at Rogue Valley, we have Stephen and Walter, and in Klamath, Franny has been a tremendous source of support, help, and direction around making sense of all of this because technology is not my ministry. So we will leave that there. So now that we've gotten all of the fun stuff out of the way, let's deepen our time together with the chalice lighting. These are words from Reverend Alicia Ford, when we pause to remember. When we pause to remember who we are, companions on this grand experiment called life, when we take a moment to shed the ways we have been carefully taught to lead from fear, to punish the poor, to prosecute those who do not look like we do, to deny rights to those who love, to believe that we are separate, that some people are superior to others. When we take a moment to shed all of that and hear our stories, hear and see each other into existence, into community. When we take a moment to embrace, to practice a different way of being, when we answer the call of love, then we are living into the promise of building the world we dream about. It is a beautiful dream to cast a vision, to stretch our mind into the future and imagine what may be if we were to build a new way of being, not someday, but beginning again today, beginning again every day that we have breath, taking courage with these hands and heart to make real the dream of a more equitable world, to journey together, seeking to be transformed, even as we transform, being explorers and learned in this world around us, humbled by what we do not yet know, fulfilling the promise of healing a fragmented world, laboring not just in hope, but also in love. In this spirit, we commit, and this spirit we gather, and in this spirit we pray. Thank you.
Now time for our land acknowledgement. So I'd like to invite Dorothy and QuianaDenae up. I will share our UUGP land acknowledgement. Dorothy will share the Klamath tribes, and QuianaDenae will share the Rogue Valley Unitarian Ashland tribes. So our service today is broadcast from our UUGP sanctuary in Grants Pass, Oregon, on the traditional lands of the Cow Creek Umpqua, the Lagawa, the Tequilma, and the Tolowa-Dene peoples. Each of these names represents a unique language and culture and a specific and intimate relationship with this land, a relationship that white colonizers sought to dismantle and destroy. As we acknowledge the traditional stewards of the land where we make our homes, may doing so be the beginning of a commitment to truth and reconciliation by our congregation. Let us acknowledge the genocide and also the resilience of our Indigenous neighbors. Let us seek to learn from those who have tended this land since time immemorial. May we work together toward justice.
Our friends in Klamath Falls are guests on the traditional lands of the Klamath, Modoc, and Yahuskan Paiute peoples who have been stewards of this land since time immemorial.
Rogue Valley is on the home of the Cow Creek. I've got Sylvia prepping me over here, and I don't want to say them wrong. Sylvia, can you read this for me?
Absolutely. Rogue Valley is on the home of the Cow Creek Umpqua, Tequilma, Shasta, and Lagawa peoples.
I think you said it.
Yeah. Okay, and now we will sing together number 348, Guide My Feet While I Run This Race. Our current policy is to wear masks if you're singing in the sanctuary, since we're sharing a lot together. So please do so if you'd like to sing along in the great hymnal. forgot the last verse. So. 3 verses is enough, thank you. Sorry about that, Darian. I skipped our fellowship affirmation, so thank you for being involved with that again. Thank you all. So now we will read together our Unitarian Universalist of Grants Past fellowship affirmation. It'll be on the screen. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and we love together with peace to be the truth in love and help one another.
I love reading covenants. It's one of my favorite things. It lets me know I'm home. One of my favorite parts of creating a Sunday worship service is choosing the story for all ages, because it gives me a chance to make sure that the message is accessible across a lifespan and transferable to more than one life experience. So it is in that spirit that today I share Errol's Garden by Gillian Gibbs. It is a shorter story and it will come back up later. So don't tune out, tune in. We will talk much about Errol's Garden.
Errol's Garden by Gillian Hibbs. I'm really good at growing things. I'm so good at it that we started running out of room at home. What I really wanted was a real garden. I dreamed about my garden a lot. Then one day I noticed something I had never seen before. I always thought that we lived on the top floor, but there was another button. And there was a roof. I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it before. This was the perfect spot for the garden. I told Dad and Tia right away. We learned as much as we could about roof gardens. But we needed help. Luckily, everyone else was just as excited as me. We made a plan. Everyone had different things to bring, which was good, because there were lots of different things to do. And there still are. I love picking all the fruit and vegetables. I really love carrots. Gardens are fun because they are always changing. So, what will we grow next year? The end.
So you might have figured out that's right, the name of our sermon today. So keep Errol in your mind. We are going to deepen our time together. I will be offering some words and for a short guided meditation. Our meditation time will be about 3 minutes and we'll close with the ringing of the chime. Take a deep breath, settle your feet onto the floor into a comfortable position, close or relax your eyes as you feel comfortable, and breathe in the love of this community. Winter Series 1. Do not fear winter. It is a time of holding and patience, of introspection and speculation. This is the space where we dwell, in the knowing that we are owed the darkness just as much as we are owed the light. I believe in green and all the possibilities that lay on the other end of a deep thaw. May our time of meditation begin. That's a new skill I'm gonna have to work on, is ringing a gong. Give me just a moment. I have to tell y'all a secret. When I preach at home, it feels a lot different than preaching on a chancel, so I have to reorganize a little bit. So thank you for that grace. I usually just get to stare right here and see your beautiful faces, so this is a little bit of a shift for me. First, before I begin, I need to call my comrades, ancestors, and elders into this space, making it a temporary home, making it holy. Before we get too deep in today's message about what we are growing, I want to add some UU context into the chat, as the youth say. I need to tell you about two very specific plants Unitarian Universalism is growing. The first is the 8th principle. In 2017, Paula Cole Jones and Bruce Pollock Johnson co-authored the 8th principle with the hope of deepening the UU commitment to dismantling systems of oppression. I will share now that proposed language. We, the member congregations of Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppression in our institutions. This proposal was done in full alignment with the UUA governance policies and in harmony with the UU concept of congregational polity, meaning each community could choose or vote to adopt or not adopt the 8th principle into their local community. Since that time, 226 churches as of November 20th, churches, fellowships, congregations, the gathering of the Unitarian Universalist on a Sunday morning, have voted to add the 8th principle to the covenant that they keep with each other. The other plant that UUA is growing is the Article 2 Study Commission. Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, principles and purposes. So it has been a part of our founding documents from the beginning. So it's the section that says, how are we going to be in relationship with each other? It is the foundation of all the work of our association. It is member congregations and covenanted communities. In 2017, based on association-wide dialogue and concerns, coupled with the reality that our principles and purposes were last revised in 1987. Whoa. The UUAA board committed to establishing this Article 2 Study Commission. And by Article 2, they really just mean the part of our governance contract. So Article 2 can be hard to hear, but just know that that's what it means. Just that part of our agreement with each other. Study Commission to consider possible amendments to the article, meaning they were tasked with considering changes to our principles and our purpose. To quote a mentor and now ancestor E. Williams, it is time for us to review and make changes so that we are living into the Unitarian Universalism of the future. A Unitarian Universalism that holds us in times of great need and ethical and moral and spiritual crisis. The leadership of the Article 2 Commission have followed a clear and transparent process as defined by our bylaws. They have released proposed changes to our principles and purpose. The proposal is available online for review, and it is a very short 3-page document. And it can be found on the UUAA website. I did not give the tech team this link, but if Franny is amazing, they might pop that link in the chat. And for your knowing, just so that you understand how Article 2 shows up for you, for your knowing, the next step include more feedback and more dialogue and conversation about the proposed changes with a vote taking place at GA in 2024. So it's not happening tomorrow, it's not happening next week. We have over a year to be still in dialogue about changing how we show up in the world. This sermon is about the interaction of change and growth. And I think that we can all agree that no matter the format, platform, or process, Unitarian Universalism has to decide not if they will change, but how. So that gives us space that we need to ask the question, what are we growing? COVID has been a season and not the season we planned for, which begs the question, how does one prepare for layered pandemics? COVID, racial uprising, acts of racial terror at the US Capitol, wrestling with the impact of capitalism on employment, housing, education, medical access. And least we forget, we are standing still in one of the tumultuous election cycles and patterns of behavior of our lifetime. But I digress. I want to talk about seasonal preparation. In the winter, I planned for snow. I came here expecting snow. I have lots of outdoor equipment at home. Several sets of protective outerwear. My winter game is on point. I am a Minnesota girl after all. The spring is many umbrellas, a rain slicker, and waterproof shoes, and summer. Oh, I love me some summer, but summer prep is full of home changes like adding fans and AC, and my wardrobe is filled with flowy, airy dresses and the freeing of my toes. And the fall has me falling back in love with sweaters and hoodies in such a slow progression, I forget that winter is looming. Each new season brings a change of heart and energy broadcast. See, in the summer, I am outside all the time, the lake, camping, state park hikes. I never know who I might see. So I wear my smile nice and big. I project friendly. I want to be as inviting as a ray of sun. But winter is a different story. I have seasonal depression and I am focused on self-care and emotional maintenance. This makes my winter energy broadcast much quieter, akin to a sunny day in the middle of winter. And as we move into the 3rd anniversary of COVID, as we prepare to come out on the other side, I wonder, what am I preparing for? What equipment might I need? What changes will my home require? What energy am I broadcasting and receiving? And I am called to the last line of Errol's garden story. What are we growing next year? As a person, I look at my own personal garden plot and it is well tended and loved. But that is not the case for the garden as a whole. See, some plots are well tended like mine, and others almost look interrupted, like something happened and the gardener was unable to return. I see the neglected plots crying out to be weeded and watered. I wonder what UUA is planning for the year. I wonder what the SOUUP community is planting. What work is being done now that will impact the 2023 fall harvest? The 8th principle states and the Article 2 Commission recommendations are calling us to name our highest aspirations, to declare who we are and how we show up in the world. And the garden calls. What are we currently tending? What are the areas of community that get the most sun and the right amount of water? And the garden calls. What needs tending? What has been forgotten in the rush of pandemic transition? And the garden calls. What has the potential to grow? What happens when a community lives into all 8 of the Unitarian Universalist principles? When we adjust our principles and purpose to align with the world that is, not the world that was. There are so many lingering questions under this hard winter frost. What are we currently growing? Most of our Unitarian Universalist congregations are predominantly white, and that is not a good or a bad, but a truth. I use the word predominantly with intention. I don't want to erase the past, present, or future contributions of Black and Indigenous and other people of the global majority that have always been and remain active in the UU faith. We are here too. In over 20 years that I have spent in Unitarian Universalist spaces, friends, I have engaged all the shades of UU whiteness: fragile whiteness, passive whiteness, passive aggressive whiteness, liberal whiteness. I don't see color whiteness. I'm married to a BIPOC white. I adopted BIPOC children white, aggressively anti-Black white, racist white, terroristic threat white, and they all share one common trait: a center of whiteness with a dash to a heap of white supremacy culture. Let's be clear. We are attempting to grow a thriving faith community in soil that is contaminated with white supremacy. If we are upholding and idolizing concepts like perfectionism, individualism, power hoarding, and a sense of urgency, we should not be surprised when we are forced to harvest whole populations ravished with imposter syndrome, tokenism, model minorities, closed or siloed communities that die out because there is no room for new leadership or ideals. No changes to the core community as process and progress get stalled on and over language. Communities where faith is transactional. From the vantage point of a gardener, white supremacy is a toxic, invasive weed. It hurts individual plots until they spill over to the soil, to the tender roots, reaching up, taking over the canopy and choking out the light. That is not what I want to harvest. Not when the eighth principle calls us to journey toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in our institution. What needs tending? What was a liberal faith in 1793 or 1825 or 1961 has vastly changed. It is 2022. Sharing the pulpit with people of all genders or non-gender is standard. GLBTQ identity is out and fabulous. And we know we are no longer clinging to the binary. We are honoring the full spectrum of gender experiences and expressions. Accessibility has expanded to support a range of needs: physical, mental, and emotional. Black, Indigenous, and other people of the global majority are demanding a seat at the table and refusing to take cold plates out the back door. The world has evolved, and we as a UU faith need to evolve or risk dying. For now, I will leave this here, but know that there is a longer conversation that's required to talk about the power of adaptation. But I call us back to Errol's garden. I imagine that alongside with the garden's physical growth and popularity, that the energy of the community also shifted. Changes in the land caused changes in the energy broadcast. My winter broadcast energy is much quieter, akin to a sunny day in the middle of winter. But I imagine the people in Errol's community were not a community prior to the garden. They were all just people who lived in the same building. But once that garden started, they were interacting daily, engaging in dialogue, and becoming more finely connected in a web of support. My summer energy broadcast is loud. I want to be as inviting as a ray of sun. COVID has called us to shift from I to we, to use more community care models like mutual aid and explore new delivery systems for pastoral care. No matter what happens in this next phase of our COVID reopening, we cannot let that part go. We must hold on. We must remain the beloved community we claim we want to be. We must continue on a path of growing ourselves and each other to center human dignity. Friends, to dig deeper into the garden metaphor, I did that. There are two stories happening simultaneously in any garden, community garden. the growing of individual plots, and the collection of plots that constitute a community garden. That is to say, everyone has their individual and communal part to generate a community garden. You can have plants and you can have plots. However, the shift into something more requires covenant, agreement, and good faith energy toward shared goals. I agree. The work ahead is both individual and collective. When I am tending just to my little plot, my little bubble, I have the impression that all is well and perfect, but I have a very limited vantage point to make that assessment. Sustainability is not rooted in individual good. It is rooted in communal good. I do the work in the shared spaces that focus on our interconnected thriving. Sharing my seeds, offering to water your squash, or helping you with your weeding is the work required to live into the community, to live into what makes us a community. What has the potential to grow? What happens when we fully, it's okay to take a breath. What has the potential to grow? What happens when a community fully lives our values as expressed in the 8th principle or the Article 2 Commission report? The 8th principle and the draft of the proposed Article 2 is what my Aunt Tracy would call love in action. She taught me that love in action is a verb meant to influence all you do and how you move in the world. Love in action moves us from ideation to actualization. Love in action does not slow down to look at the words or definition. Love in action does not require everyone believe as I believe. Love in action does not require I place money in the basket. Love in action does not require that I am quiet, small, and convenient. No, friends, love in action is big and loud, bright, intrusive even. Because the goal is to move away from the heady idea of love and to the hands part of love that is direct and unapologetic. Love in action is equal parts verb, commandment, commitment, and binding covenant. So we arrive at harvest time. Is there a new branch of UU theology under this hard pandemic frost? Is the 8th principle a new UU season? Is the adoption of the 8th principle our spring awakening? Is the learning more and subsequent voting on Article 2 the new UU way? What if all of the dialogue and conversation and gnashing of spirit that brought 226 UU communities to say yes to the 8th principle was us stomping about in the rainy days of April before the May of flowers? What if all of this discernment on the 8th principle was preparing our garden for the most magical summer, the summer of 2024, when we vote on Article 2? A summer where everyone is willing to live in alignment with our newly stated values, and everyone is offered radical welcome. What if this is our time where we can say with confidence, whiteness is not centered here? And furthermore, say out loud, ways of moving that affirm whiteness are welcome but will not be idolized. A summer full of celebration that call on us to dance with our whole selves, hands, head, and heart. I think the work ahead has two major components: tending to the individual plots and then helping others in the community garden. I think that the task list must include the naming of that which harms us, that which is destroying us at the root, that which is choking out the sun, that which is slowly killing our community garden: white supremacy. Anger will not shield us from calls to change. All of the shades of whiteness will not save us. Denial and deferring and derailing will not save us. Wordplay and stalling will not save us. Threats to leave and take your financial contribution will not save us. Threats to leave brick and mortar communities will not save us. There is no diverse staff, BIPOC, global majority minister, no Black Lives Matter flag that will save us. There is not Black women, ministers, or poets who will save us. This predominantly white Unitarian Universalist faith will need to participate and play a major role in saving themselves. So I ask, what will we need to let go of? What will we need to give in order to grow? Who needs to be at the planning table, workbench, dispute resolution roundtable, and the harvest buffet if we are going to move from individual survival into collective thriving? I find myself standing in Arrow's high-rise elevator, pressing the button to the top of the garden. And I am remembering the words offered in the Article 2 proposal under Values and Covenant, which states, love is the enduring force that holds us together. As Unitarian, Universalist, and religious community, we covenant, congregation to congregation, and through our association to assist each other in engaging our ministries. We draw from our heritage of freedom and reason, hope and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love inspires and powers the passion with which we embody our values. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are justice, generosity, evolution, pluralism, equity, and interdependence. I want to read those again, that this Unitarian Universalist faith has these values: love, justice, generosity, evolution, pluralism, equity, and interdependence. Friends, I say to you, all we have now is each other. We have each other in relationships fortified in love, trust, wrapped in mutual care, principled struggle, and faith. All we have now is our garden. So the only question left is, what are we going to grow next year? Ashe and amen, my friends. I believe we have a musical selection. I actually asked that music be played afterwards because I know the things I said were just super heavy. And so it didn't feel appropriate to pass the basket right after that. I wanted to give us some emotional space to take all of that energy in. Our offertory does look a little bit different this morning. One of the blessings and joys of serving 3 communities is that y'all all have 3 different worships and elements come at different points in different places. So I had to do some rejiggering and moving things around to balance the needs of all 3 communities. And so folks in this room, y'all can't see them, but I can. They're making the face like, where's the offertory? It's right now. So Arrow's Garden calls us to think about the ways we move as individuals and as a collective, to think about how we share our power and resources, to think about who is at the table and who needs a chair. On the screen, we are offering the individual communities giving information. Please give as you are able. You will note that some of the communities are doing special offerings this month, the first Sunday of the month, that go to different community organizations. So just please note, their giving information. We'll leave it up. We have one more selection from the amazing Darian. Wow. I was thinking that was the offertory music. I was thinking that I guessed that. Do you have can you give us, because I know how amazing you are in impromptu, do you have a 3-minute piece of music you could share with us?
I think so. It's a version of Beethoven's Ode to Joy.
Yeah.
Yes, bring it. So we will have 3 minutes of collection, whether that's in the sanctuary or on the screen. Please give as you are able.
Of this congregation and that congregation and that congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community, we dedicate this offering. Thank you.
Sylvia and I were whispering at each other, but now we're going to whisper out loud because I didn't catch everything. What'd you ask me? Oh, okay. We'll do those. Yeah. So I think that because I think the other 2 communities also have some in the house things they need to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to offer the benediction. I like being transparent about what's happening to you. So that's why I'm doing this. We're going to do the benediction and the closing song, and then we may have a few announcements after that's over, after we stop the broadcast button. So then if you're in Klamath or you're at Rogue Valley and you need to have some conversation or want to do joys and sorrows, that floor will be open to you all, and we can have a little bit of community here in this space with us as well. To that end, as we bring our time together, I want to thank a couple more folks as well. Reverend Sean Dennison Parker, who is out of Roof, is my teaching minister, and I want to acknowledge that. And I also have a pretty dynamic learning committee that I get to work with in this process, and I want to thank them for their time, energy, and constant encouragement. Again, I want to thank Sylvia for their amazingness, Anthony, David, Stephen, Walter, and Franny. I want to offer these words from Alexis Pauline Gumbs from her book, Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Mammals. And when this will also be where we extinguish our chalice, and you are free when this piece is done, Darian, to lead us, and love will guide us, which is 131 in the hymnal if you have it. So you can just start to prep and get ready for that. Anticipate. Words from Undrowned. Out here in the open ocean, mothering is an emergent strategy. Consider the white-bellied, short-snouted dolphin who travel in groups of hundreds, sometimes 1,000. Lesson 1, roll deep, and welcome several other species of dolphins and whales to swim and eat in community. Lesson 2, better together. Though they swim across the entire planet, no scientist or no one willing to tell a Western scientist saw one alive until 1971. In fact, it seems there was a coordinated movement to be recognized because there were several different first sightings of the species on different parts of the planet, all somehow in 1971. Lesson 3, we can be seen on our own terms. The only requirement to be a part of this massive oceanic family are that you gotta be willing to dive deep because they eat thousands of feet below the surface. Lesson 4, do your depth work. And flock, because they collectively change direction abruptly to keep humans from following them, and also move thousands of miles to stay current with the ocean, which is lesson 5, be ready to be transformed. Gratitude to my oceans of love, my expansive family in all directions, my mothers of all genders and ages and times. Thank you for nurturing and holding me accountable in more ways than I can name. Thank you, Grants Pass Unitarian Universalist. Love will guide us, 131. Please mask up what you're choosing to sing. Thank you. I want to make sure that if there's any community announcements, we make sure that those are covered. And I don't have those announcements, but I think we wanted to make sure the community had what it needed. And did we stop the broadcast? You know, I don't know that, right? We didn't yet, I don't think. Okay, so we're gonna,
They gave me the link in the chat. Anthony, when you put social action.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay, I don't know if we're on the YouTube right now. How's it going, YouTube fans? I don't have any particular announcements, but is there anything happening in the community? All right, Constance, I'm gonna remask and come on up.
Should announce there's no.
Our social action team's gonna meet here. I'm not